What's up guys, Rogue9 here, and I'm back with some more Rainbow Six Siege. Today, I'm going to be exploring the damage capability of the impact grenades. Let's take a closer look. If you are mainly interested in the results of my test, feel free to skip ahead to 3 minutes and 34 seconds now. Otherwise, stick around to get an insight into my experimental setup, the raw data I collected, and my analysis of that data. But before we take a closer look at the experiment itself, here's a quick history lesson. Yes, the impact grenade from Rainbow Six Siege did in fact exist in real life. It was developed towards the end of the Second World War by the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, which later became the CIA, and the Eastman Kodak Corporation. The grenade was purposefully designed to look like a baseball based on the theory that every young American would instantly know how to throw it with power and accuracy. Developing the impact fuse seemed to have been quite tricky because it is said that 43 people were injured and 3 died as a result of testing the grenade. And even when finally approved and deployed during combat, the grenade was only issued in limited numbers and is said to have actually caused more casualties among the users than the enemy troops. Luckily though, the impact grenades in Rainbow Six are somewhat more reliable, and here's how I tested them. Maximum damage was tested by having grenades thrown directly at my character's head, and after that I tested indirect damage, with grenades landing on the floor at 0, 1, 2, 2.5 and 3 meters distance. And since shields now have the capability of blocking explosive damage, I also tested the impact grenade against shield operators. Tests were conducted both in the standing and kneeling position, and grenades were thrown directly at the shield and at the floor at 1 meters distance and 2 meters distance. I did do separate tests with Montagna, assuming that his larger shield would do a better job at mitigating damage. But surprisingly it didn't, so the results will be applicable to all 3 shield operators. And here are the results. Unsurprisingly, grenades thrown directly at you do the most damage. And while damage from 0 to 1 meters is consistent, the damage drop-off after that is incredibly steep, going to 0 just after 2.5 meters. These results mean that the damage multipliers for the impact grenade are 0.85 for medium armor and 0.75 for heavy armor. The inaccuracy we can see in the results at 2 and 2.5 meters are down to the inaccuracy in measuring distance in the game. Now if we go over to the results for shield operators, we can see that any direct hit to the shield will do a consistent 8 points of damage. And the same damage is caused by indirect blasts up to 1 meter's distance, as long as the shield operator is crouched behind his shield and facing directly towards the blast. The effectiveness of the shield is greatly diminished though if the operator stands up and exposes his legs. In this case, the damage at 1 meter's distance is 33 points instead of the 42 points for other heavy operators. And I say other heavy operators, there's really only 3 heavily armored attackers, and all 3 of them are capable of carrying shields, but you might come across fews who will usually not carry a shield. Once you go to 2 meters distance against shield operators, the damage will be negligible at best. And with that, let's move on to my conclusions on the damage capability of the impact grenades. If you're rejoining us here, welcome back. In my opinion, the usefulness of the impact grenades as a weapon is very limited. Even when faced with a lightly armored opponent, you will need to use both of your grenades, and both of them will have to land within 1 meter's distance of your opponent. To kill a full health medium armor opponent, you will again need both grenades, and at least one of them will need to be a direct hit. A heavily armored opponent at full health cannot be killed with impact grenades alone, even if both of them are direct hits. Using your impact grenades against shield operators that are facing towards you is basically pointless. So let's face it, your impact grenades simply can't take out an enemy in 1 hit, and by the time you throw both of them at your enemy, they're going to have shot you. End of story. The only time where it would make sense to use the impact grenades as a weapon is if your enemy is already injured and trying to take cover behind a solid surface. If your enemy is out of cover, you're simply better off using your guns. And since the impact grenades are so weak as weapons, you're far better off using them as breaching tools. If you ever need to open up a boarded up door or window or even a breachable wall, the impact grenades will allow you to do this very quickly and reliably. So yeah, forget throwing them at your enemies, throw them at the walls to create flanking routes instead. and that's the impact grenades. Safer than the real-life version, but not very deadly to the enemy either. I'm always happy to receive any feedback, so if you have any comments, leave them below, and if you think the video was interesting and or useful, feel free to share it with your friends. My next video on Tachanka's LMG is already in the making, so keep an eye out for that in the near future. And with that guys, as always, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next episode.